Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Back with Marques Ogden, NFL superstar, entrepreneurship, and definitely a pioneer to the community that he serves. Welcome back for part two of your show, Marques. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing, my friend?
Great. Thank you for allowing a little bit more time so the viewers can get to know you. Before we get started, for those who didn't get a chance to watch the first part of your show, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are before we get into the question and answers.
Yeah, so my name is Marques Ogden. I'm from Washington, D.C. I live in Fuquay, Varina, North Carolina. It's about a half hour outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. I am a father or dad to two amazing daughters. My oldest, Ava, is 21. My daughter, Farah, is 10. I am a national, international keynote speaker, business coach, corporate consultant, podcast host, and I'm also a former NFL athlete.
That's a lot of stuff on a resume. A lot of stuff on a resume. We talked a little bit about your NFL career. How did that take off for you? Because your brother's also a Hall of Famer. What was that like for you to follow the shoes of your brother and still not be overshadowed by his excellence?
Well, that's a great question, my friend. So what I tell people is in the NFL, everybody has to earn their keep. So I was very fortunate through hard work, discipline, and not being injured to be drafted into the NFL by the Jacksonville Jaguars and my rookie head coach, Jack Del Rio. And what I really focused on, right, Dre, is I focused on me doing the things that I needed to do. And my brother was his own player, and I was my own player. And when I was able to really get the discipline and dedication of the NFL, what you needed to do to stay in the NFL, it got easier for understanding what you needed to do, but also got harder because once I realized the amount of work you have to do, the dedication, the discipline, the work ethic, all those things, it then allowed me to really go head and shoulders above and be able to have a career in the NFL when a lot of people that go to the NFL, unfortunately, don't make it for a very long time or don't stay very long.
What was the pressure like for you, though? I mean, because you're in NFL, and what I've understood about the NFL, it's not that much difference between a first rounder pick than somebody who didn't get picked. It's just like you said, it's preparation and coming your best when the opportunity shows up. And we have those that can win a Heisman, that can be the first round pick, and let's call it what it is, can be a bust. So what was the pressure like for you in general? I know what you're saying, that you come in with your own, but reality is there's still a pressure factor because this is the NFL. Everybody's trying to not be they're trying to be on the roster, but they also want to be on that field playing.
So what I tell people is pressure is a privilege. Great quote by Billie Jean King. Pressure is a privilege. And in the NFL, like anything in life that you really care about or you're focused on or you want to accomplish, the pressure is going to always be high, especially as you're doing it for a career or money or your livelihood. So I tell people in the NFL, I treated it just like anything else, right? When I got to college, I wanted to have the pressure to perform, to get on the field. When I got drafted, I had the pressure that I knew was going to be there to stay on the roster. And I tell people, just you have to accept the pressure, because if you look at pressure as the either bust the pipe or burst and things don't go well, you get so focused on what I call the negative effect, which is like you're constantly feeding yourself negative thoughts. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. And then you don't do well under pressure. So for me, I just approached it like everything else in life. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to focus one play at a time, one movement at a time. And if I could get that down and not go either too far ahead of myself or get caught what I did in the past, I can do well in this sport. And that's what I had, and that's what I did.
What's your thought on the changes that has happened with college to the NFL when you have players now that they don't even have to even go to the NFL to become a multimillionaire, to become an overnight sensation. So let's go back to this word that you said, pressure is a privilege. Are we seeing enough pressure being put on athletes from the transition from high school to college to the NFL? Like, is there pressure anymore as the way in which you evaluated pressure?
Oh no, it's totally different today because here's the thing. These young athletes have pressure to do good at that moment to try to get an NIL deal, to get the endorsements, to get that big check. And that's great. But when we came out, that was not the case. High school players, college players weren't getting paid, big money for anything because there was no name, image, and likeness, or we call that NIL. So the pressure today is different. For example, there's a lot of times where players, I think the kid from the Bengals, Shamur something, who was drafted out of Texas A&M. He is the
Yeah,
number 16 pick overall, and he's not signing his contract because of wording that is in the contract with the Bengals. If he gets hurt or something like that, they don't have to pay him. I don't know the whole story, but I can tell
right,
you this: when we were coming out, when we played, if you were drafted, right? We didn't go through this thing about looking at contracts like that. We didn't analyze things of that nature because when we got to the NFL, most of us, not all of us, most of us didn't have any money. So this is our opportunity to make money, to have a career, to take care of our families for after we got through playing this awesome sport. Now I don't know this kid's background, but maybe he got a great NIL deal in college at Texas A&M. And you know what? He said, you know what? I don't like what I'm seeing. And that's his right. That's what it is what it is. He's got to follow his agent's advice. And he's not signing his contract with the Bengals, right? But also the Bengals aren't looking good because they haven't signed Trey Hendricks. Trey Hendrickson, who's led the league in sacks for the last 2 years in a row. He's had 17 plus sacks 2 seasons ago and last season. And you're not giving this guy an extension. You're not going to pay him what he deserves. So the Bengals right now aren't looking good from an overall perspective. But to answer your question, that's a perfect example of these kids now having a little bit more, room or leverage to say, hey, I don't like what I'm seeing. I want this to be a little bit better. And so when we came up, the pressure when you got drafted, you had a contract in front of you, there was no NIL money. There was no any of that. So unless you just got a really, really bad contract that your agent said, don't do it, 99.9% of the time, right, man, we were signing that contract, ready to go to OTAs, ready to go to mandatory camp, ready to go to training camp, ready to go try to play in that season.
what do you think about situations like that, to where now the players are taking accountability of their own future? I get it.
It's
I know it's
business. It's it's
but
it's
it's business.
it's business. I mean, the owners want the best for them. The players want the best for them. And what
Mhm.
I don't like is I don't like when other players, like veterans, for example, right? Jamar Chase is trying to tell this young kid, shut the F up and come play football. Well, Jamar Chase, you have a phenomenal multi-year deal, right, that you signed, right? So why are you concerned about this kid who's, again, according to what I'm hearing, there's some language in his contract that's not favorable to him if he gets hurt. I don't know the specifics, right? But
Mhm.
again, you need to just stay in your lane. Either support this young man or don't say anything. Like I said, I don't know enough about it, right? But I'm just saying from my perspective, when we played, I know that I don't know any guy that was presented a contract, first round through undrafted, that didn't sign his contract unless it was like a first rounder holding out for more money that was slotted for the person in front of them. Because once we had people in front of us sign, boom, we're signing. Because at that point, the market value has been set according to the draft status, according to how the draft's going to go. So again, that's us, but it's way different today. NIL is giving these kids a lot more leverage to say, hey, I don't like this. I want this to be I want this to be looked at or paid attention to. And I say, hey man, look, it's that's their business, that's their livelihood. You gotta let it do what it do.
Let me ask you a question. You was in that same situation, but not contract negotiations. But looking back, when you was that same individual that's getting ready to get drafted, that's going to Jacksonville, that's dealing with your contract and so forth, what do you wish that what looking back now, what do you wish you had done different compared to what you're done where you're at now in your life as it relates to your age,
Hmm.
the position in which you played, the team that you went to? Because let's get real, Jacksonville is not the Dallas Cowboys. Two different markets, a whole different thing. What do you? How do you? What do you wish you could have that you had done differently back then as opposed to now?
I wish I would have hired somebody to help me with building a brand outside of the game. Because when I retired, I didn't do that and I didn't have that. And that's not good. So I tell people, I really wish I would have had somebody to help me get myself set up for branding and or messaging perspective, how to market myself, and then how to close sales and then do something outside of football. So I'd have had something when the game ended, I could have transitioned right into it and not missed a beat. But I didn't have that. So if I could go back, I would hire somebody to help me create a brand for myself. So that way, while I'm playing football during the off season, I could be capitalizing on deals, endorsements, media, whatever, and actually built a brand for myself beyond just the gridiron.
How many NFL players? You don't have to mention no name, but just a rough statistic of NFL players has gone through exactly what you just said. Because let's get real, they go off into the sunset. They have immaculate careers. Some don't have stellar careers, and you look at them and they're working at a Walmart. They're and so forth. Like, what do you think the percentage is?
I think when I was playing, I would probably have to guesstimate around 80% of guys weren't building a brand. Now, today, I think probably about 70% are because social media has made it so they can basically post something and then poof, everybody knows about it, right? So back when we were playing, there was only MySpace. Tom was on MySpace. There was no Facebook. There was no LinkedIn, there was no Instagram, there was no X. So we were very limited in our options. So I would say when I was playing, about 80% of guys probably were not brand building versus today, probably about 70%, I would say, are brand building.
Let's talk about the NFL teams and markability and value. When you are coming out of college and you're getting ready for the draft, let's get real. You know what teams you want to play for. You know which ones are going to give you more leverage. My question here is, when you was picked by Jacksonville, was that the team that you wanted to go to, or was you a little bit disappointed? Because if I know that a team, let me use the John Elway situation with the Denver thing and the Colts. If I'm good and I'm going to get picked in the draft, I think I should be able to pick to some extent where I want to go. Now, some people might say, well, then the good teams are always going to have control of the best players. But I look at it like this: why should I get picked by a team that has no shot at all, and I'm in the top 10 of the best players in the world? What's your take on that?
So, the thing is, the NFL draft is always going to be the team that drafts you needs you the most. So when I went to Jacksonville, I was actually pretty happy because James Shaq Harris, who was one of the first actually he was the first African American quarterback to start an entire season in the NFL for the Buffalo Bills back in the 60s. And I knew him, we call him Shaq, from his time with the Ravens in their front office. And he actually went down to Jacksonville that year as a rookie, as a new person in a higher role. He was the director of he was a director of pro personnel. So it was awesome for me. But to answer your question, as an athlete, you have to understand it's a business and you're not going to always get to pick your employer, right? Or sometimes, people offer you more money. You have to go where don't want to go sometimes. But then sometimes you do get picked to where you want to go. But again, I understand what you're saying. But at the end of the day, the athletes have to understand it is a business and these owners are going to pick who they feel is the best. And I always tell people, look, if a team drafts you, at least there's a vested interest in you to be good versus going somewhere you're either undrafted or not. It could turn out to be fantastic, but it's like, well, they don't have the vested interest in you as much. So there's pros and cons to that, but I really enjoyed Jacksonville because I also loved Jack Del Rio from getting to know him when he was with the Ravens as a linebacker coach, and he was just a great guy that I knew was a player's coach. So I was very lucky in that regard from a front office perspective and a head coaching perspective. I was like I knew we had a good match.
You mentioned a player's coach. Elaborate on that a little bit, and why is that really important to building a championship team?
A player's coach knows what guys go through at the professional level because they've played it themselves. Jack Del Rio was a great linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings, played at USC in college. So he understood what our bodies went through, when to push us, when to give us a little time to relax, when to be funny with us, when to be serious with us, when it's time to kick booty, when it's time to kind of take the gas off a little bit. Jack understood that from a whole perspective. And Jack was excellent with handling the media from keeping them from criticizing us to the point where it was going to affect how we interacted with each other. And that is such an important factor because at the end of the day, this is what it really comes down to. You want to have the ability to, as a head coach, to have the respect of your team. If your team doesn't respect you as a head coach, I don't care how much you want them to play for you, they're not going to play as hard as they can for you.
Let me ask you a question here. I'm trying to word this the right way where this makes sense. Let's just say a particular quarterback held out for a large amount of money. He got that money. And now the season starts. And now the fans are like, what the hell? He's not living up to the investment. He's not living up to the what the fans feel. And where I'm going with this is I'm maybe it's just me. I'm seeing the word team being dismembered with the word it's all about me. I want the money. What's your take on that?
You know what, man? That's where I feel teams that have the ability to have a healthy culture are going to win over other teams. That's why the Chiefs have been so good for so long because Mahomes and their other key players have bought into the culture of we over me. And that's why I feel some teams like the Cowboys struggle because they don't have a culture where it's about we. It's more about me. And again, that's part of football, right? I mean, you pay a guy money, it's a risk. It's a calculated risk. Not every player you give a big contract to works out. For example, I'll say his name. He'd say the same thing. Kirk Cousins is a really good quarterback, has had a great career in the NFL. But Kirk Cousins has not panned out to the winning side of winning, what really matters, playoff games, Super Bowls, appearances, things like that. And that's why a lot of people, I feel, have now kind of moved on from Kirk Cousins. Not that he's not a great player, but when you're a quarterback, you are paid to win. Period. That's what it is, right? You're paid to win and not just win in the regular season, win when it's either win or go home.
Mm.
Mahomes gets paid. Jalen Hurts has been paid, right? Look down in Tampa with now Baker Mayfield. He's won some games with, in the postseason. He's been paid, right? Look at not Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, up in Detroit. It's been not Matt Stafford, Jared Goff up in Detroit now, been paid. He's won some games when it's mattered the most, right? Look at quarterbacks that haven't, right? Okay, Brock Purdy got paid, has won games when it matters. As a
Mm.
quarterback, that's what has to happen. Regular season is nice, but they're paying you the big bucks off of winning playoff games and getting and kind of going up the ranks into deeper and deeper into the playoffs. So again, that's just business. But again, you're correct. The teams that have the me culture, I feel struggle. And also I feel really great veterans that have made a lot of money already, and it's not about the money to them as much. It's about the connection and the working together. I feel those teams like the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, they're the ones that are actually continuing to win every year because it's a we culture, not a me culture.
And I appreciate you saying that. But then I go back to, you got a roster with everybody wanting to get some money. I
Mhm.
mean, does animosity sometime overpower the me the analysis that you just gave?
Hmm. It
Because
all
everybody wants to get that money, and
it
then some people get cut.
it all depends on the leadership on your team. So look at the Bills. Josh Allen said, you know what? You all can keep the extra $5 million a year. It's not going to make any difference to me in how I live my life. None. And that's why guys and people want to go to Buffalo. So it's just like anything else in corporate America, in the business world, it starts with your leadership. If your leadership is bought into that culture, the animosity is way less, if any, because if you talk like that or you act like that, you're out of here. So again, this is where, right, the top leadership look at the Chiefs. Mahomes could have said, I'm gonna keep this money. He has restructured his contract several times because that's what he knows is key to getting what? Players that are great veterans, great people gonna fit the locker room to help them win. So again, at the end of the day, man, it's like anything else in life, in the business world. Great leadership will give you much better results.
Your brother is definitely a great leader. It's shown with the Hall of Fame. It's shown with you. You guys come from a serious pedigree of family values. What were some of the things when you got into the league that your brother shared with you and you shared with him that you wanted to make sure it was not going to be a stumbling block for you?
He told me to always be a professional. It's not about just dressing the part, it's about showing up and showing out. It's about being early, not just on time. It's about having integrity. It's about being able to focus on the goals that you want for yourself. And so I learned very quickly showing up was just half of it. I had to show out as well. And dressing the part really has nothing to do with it if you're not going to dress the part, show up, and show out. And the professionalism is what Jonathan taught me. And that helped me to really understand how to play the game at a higher level. And it helped me when I got now into what I'm doing now in my regular life as a speaker, trainer, coach, all that. I'm much more polished in that area.
Mhm. Now, let me ask a question. What was it like to play with your brother, to have that opportunity? We don't get many NFL players that get the opportunity to play with their siblings.
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, Jonathan was the best teacher that I ever had playing in football in my life. The best. He taught me how the sets, the angles, the body position, the foot distribution, the balance, the angles, the symmetry, the body position, when to punch, how to recover, how to be positioned, how to bend your knees at the right level, what to look at on the defensive end, all these things. So Jonathan was really, for me, the catalyst to help me get to where I'm at in that regard as a professional athlete. So learning from him was absolutely just, uh, there's no way I could have ever been the player that I've been without my brother.
Outside of your brother, who were some of the other players that you looked up to when you and why?
Oh, Ray Lewis for his intensity, Ed Reed for his attention to detail and how he approached everything from a very just strategic, mad scientist approach to, guys like Fred Taylor, who was just one of the best and grittiest running backs I ever played with, to guys like Eric Moulds, to, this, amazing guys of that nature. And so I was always around great football players that were always about leveling up. And that's how I leveled up in my career. And then when I got out of my career, and now what I'm doing now, I've leveled up because I remember what it was like to be on the field, be in the locker room with those type of guys. And that's how I carry myself and I carry my life today.
We hear about a lot of players who get these contracts. We see them with the bling bling during the draft and so forth. A critical mistake with money management right off the bat, in my opinion. Have any of these things ever happened to you that you look back on and go, wow, I wish I had did something different, and that caused you to really have to restructure every single thing because of a financial or business decision that you came across, you invested and thought it was good for you to do, and it backfired on you?
Well, yeah, I mean, my construction company, I should have never got into construction. I had no experience in it. I had no knowledge of it, but I was out of football. I had some knowledge of business, but not that business. And I just got overextended. I grew too quickly, and I literally tried to run a business without proper funding and without proper, people and expertise, and it cost me dearly. So I tell people all the time, in life, in business, please know what you're getting into and please be properly funded in what you're trying to do. So I lost mine because I got overextended and I was not repaid money by a client, and the bank shut my line of credit off. Boom, that was it. So now when I speak today to audiences around the world, I tell my story and I talk about things like, how to have the right mindset, how to communicate, how to be professional, how to goal set, how to be self-aware. And with self-awareness, if you don't know what you're not good at and you don't fix it, it could end up costing you like it costs me in the long run.
How did you know what you was going to do after football?
I had no idea. And literally, I struggled immensely for about 6 months. And I just happened to find an individual who connected me to my business partner. And we jumped into business. I really didn't even know him. I didn't do a background check. I just jumped in. And honestly, I was very green. I was very, raw. And I didn't know anything. And so honestly, I got taken advantage of, which is all of my fault, which is why I love to coach people today. I tell my clients, hire me so you don't end up like me. That's what it's all about.
When you was going through these things, it would appear to me that several things can transpire. You're an athlete. You're trying to resonate into another part of your life. It didn't work out. Let's talk about how did that all have an effect on your family? You have two daughters. You were married at the time, I assume. So how did all that take place with your family structure?
So I was not married at the time. I met my fiance, and then I met my fiance in was that June of 2012, and then no, July of 2012, and I ended up going bankrupt in April 2013. So
Wow.
it was really difficult from that stretch, lots of stress, lots of anxiety, lots of sleepless nights, lots of hardship. And I took those lessons once I stopped being in my own way. And I took those lessons that I learned and I started a business of trying to speak and help people. That was a challenge. That was hard. Finally got some traction. 2018, I got coached. I got developed, learned the business. We started to grow from there. Then in 2022, I had to file for a divorce from my ex-wife. I moved into an apartment. I then got my act together, bought my dream home in May 2023. And now here we are speaking, coaching, consulting, our podcast. We put some extra money behind marketing this month. We
Right.
had one day where we had 11,111 downloads in a day. We're close to 130 to 100. We're close to like 130,000 downloads this month and climbing. So
Wow.
I've worked really hard. Our team has worked really hard to bounce back. And that's where we're at today. That's why we love helping people. And we love the work that we do as a speaker, coach, consultant, podcaster, and also a brand ambassador of organizations that align with our values.
Speaking of your values, what's the name of the podcast and how can the viewers actually listen to the podcast? And then the second part of that question is, what was the need for the podcast? Like, what made you decide to focus a lot of detailed energy on creating a podcast?
So the podcast is called Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. You can listen to it on every major podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, all the majors. And the reason for starting the podcast is even though speaking, 75% of society is deathly afraid of public speaking. 75%. But there's still a decent amount of people that speak that are in the speaking industry. The podcast was started to do two things. One, interview amazing people with authentic stories to inspire our listeners. Number two, it was created as a top line of our funnel to help connect us with awesome people to get on their radar for potential collaboration, potential partnership, and potential business opportunities later on down the road. And it's been phenomenal in both retrospects. And we're so fortunate that people just love our podcast. They love our speaking. They love our coaching, our consulting. But again, it took time. This month is the 3-year anniversary of our podcast. So we launched in
Congratulations.
June of 2022. So again, I tell people it's not going to happen overnight. But the
Yeah.
podcast was created to be a top line funnel for us for branding and marketing. It took time, about 2.5 years actually, but
Right.
now we have it and people love coming into our ecosystem from the top line of the funnel as a result of our podcast. And then they go down the funnel, potentially for sales, then we get to work with them, and then they pay us, and we can just kind of go right back up to the top to maybe do some more work with them and do more operations and things of that nature. So it works out very well.
What are some of the things that you're getting on your podcast? What are some of the viewers sharing with you? Is it about trying to create a podcast? Is it about trying to create a new brand? Is it about becoming a public speaker? Like, what are some of the troubling things that you're hearing on your podcast?
Oh, yeah, all those things. How to be a speaker, how to stand out, how to brand yourself, how to market yourself, how to differentiate yourself, how to really create that your secret sauce factor. So again, we interview all kinds of people from celebrities. I interviewed earlier this week Jake Steinfeld, who's Body by Jake. He was very
Yeah.
popular in the late 80s, early 90s. I interviewed him on Tuesday. He's considering running for governor of California. Great guy. I've
Wow.
interviewed actresses, celebrities, musicians, you name it. And people absolutely love it. So again, the podcast is all about authenticity in that retrospect, and that's what people love about it in that regard.
Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about what you're doing for the youth, you and your brother. Are you and your brother doing anything to inspire the young youth? Because with technology today, they're getting to the point to where they're even having a hard time communicating with us, unless they're sending a text, an emoji, or something like that. Are you and your brother doing any collaborations together to address issues like that?
I always have. My brother has had his Jonathan Ogden Foundation since 1997, working with the inner city school system in Baltimore to help the youth through sports, education, and inspiration. He's been doing that for, again, since 1997. So what's that? 07, 17. It's going to be it'll be 30 years in 2 years. He's been doing that. Love that. I do a lot of work with the Boys and Girls Club, speaking to, like, youth programs, sports programs, football teams, you name it. I got a couple jobs in August for like some high school football teams, some
Right.
inner city youth. And that's where I started. I start like that picture up here on the wall. That's me playing high school football right there. That's a picture that my grandfather took when I was a junior in high school at St. John's College High School, playing in that game, his alma mater and my mom's alma mater, Coolidge High School. So absolutely, football, the youth, that's where I got our start. We started doing speaking to Pop Warner, then to middle school teams, high school, and college. And we worked our way up eventually over time to corporate America. But yes, the youth is a big, big advocacy for me and for my brother.
Man, Marques, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and share once again a beautiful story of overcoming, keeping that beast mindset. Once again, how can the viewers reach out to you? Is there a website, phone numbers? How can the viewers reach out to you?
They can go to our website, www.marquess.com. I'm sorry. It's www.marquess.ogden, OGDEN.com. MarquesOgden.com. You can shoot me an email, marcus@marquesogden.com, or shoot me a text, 919-995-2266.
Marques, thank you so much for taking time out to come on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you reach out, support. Like I said on every episode, all it takes is one click of a button to change somebody's life, to be inspired, or to make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show.